we, all of you here, all of you at home, we have paid the price. Now, tonight, the very first hearing from the House subcommittee on the weaponization of your federal government is in the books, and what we have learned so far should be troubling to every single American, regardless of what your political orientation is. Now, everything we have been telling you on this show about what is a dual justice system, unequal justice under the law, unequal application of our laws has been proven correct yet again. Anyway, joining us now with a full report, investigative reporter, Fox News contributor, Sarah Carter. Sarah, it was beyond revealing today.
It was, Sean. And you and I have been sounding the alarm for years. The political rot at America's most powerful institutions is severe. That's what we learned today. Liberal, high-ranking, unelected bureaucrats from D.C. constantly put their own political beliefs over that of the people they claim to serve. This is especially true at the FBI and DOJ. For example, parents voicing their concern about the woke agenda in schools were literally labeled as domestic terrorists. Far-right American men were broadly characterized as the greatest threat to the United States. Mar-a-Lago was raided in search of a few documents from Trump's own presidency. High-level and low-level Trump associates also faced early morning raids, perjury traps, and other aggressive tactics that were once reserved for violent criminals. We learned last night that 140 Americans faced possible charges for merely riding a bus to Trump's January 6th rally. Meanwhile, rioters who breached the Capitol on January 6th were punished with lengthy prison sentences. But the far-left rioters, Sean, in Portland, Oregon, who attempted to burn a federal courthouse to the ground every night for several months, faced almost no legal consequences at all. The majority of the charges were dropped, completely dropped. Sean, we could go on and on and on and on. But for some reason, Democrats fought tooth and nail against this committee. Maybe that's because the bias and weaponization always cuts one way. As the saying goes, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Sean,
you know, Sarah, 574 riots, summer of 2020, thousands of cops injured, billions in property damage, dozens of dead Americans. There was no committee. January 6th committee. What did NBC News finally report? That, in fact, they had intelligence, really good intelligence, in the lead up to January 6th, and our law enforcement didn't act on it. That didn't make the final report autographed for money by Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney and company, because that didn't fit their predetermined outcome just to bash Donald Trump. And that would have helped our government prevent anything like that from happening again. It's sad. But anyway, Sarah Carter, great report tonight. Thank you. Now, there is no doubt that the Committee on Weaponization, this is critical if we're going to have a constitutional republic. Now, keep in mind, some of the most emphatic warnings about this political rot are coming right from inside the FBI itself. Here is a former special agent. She's been on this program, Nicole Parker. Take a look.
Yes. It was physically taxing and emotionally jarring, but I believed I was making an impactful difference. And every day I woke up and I embraced being an FBI special agent until things changed. Over the course of my 12+ years, the FBI's trajectory has transformed. On Bureau, the Bureau's mission had remained the same, but its priorities and governing principles shifted dramatically. The FBI became politically weaponized, starting from the top in Washington and trickling down to the field offices.
All right, so what's happening and what will we learn in the days, weeks, and months ahead? Here to join us is Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan with much more.
November 18th, 2021, an FBI whistleblower discloses to Republicans on the House Judiciary that the FBI created a threat tag for parents voicing their concerns at school board meetings. April 26, 2022, another FBI whistleblower discloses that the FBI employees are being run out of the Bureau for attending conservative political events. September 14th, 2022, an FBI whistleblower discloses that the FBI views the Betsy Ross flag as a terrorist symbol. September 19th, 2022, another FBI whistleblower discloses that the Washington field office is deliberately manipulating January 6 case files to make it appear that domestic violence extremism is on the rise. November 4th, 2022, another FBI whistleblower discloses the FBI accepts private user information from Facebook without the user's consent, and information is from only the conservative side of the political spectrum. This is only a sampling.
Now, on top of all of that, high-ranking officials at the FBI, they put their thumbs on the scale in the past two presidential elections. Remember, let's go back to 2016. Remember, they slandered Donald Trump. Then, of course, the FISA warrants, the FISA applications. They spied on his campaign, his transition team, and yes, when he was in the White House as your president. And they did it by using a FISA warrant that was full of misinformation, that was Russian disinformation paid for by Hillary Rodham Clinton. And by the way, not only was it not verified, it was unverifiable because all of it was forced. So they used Christopher Steele's dirty dossier filled with Russian disinformation. Remember, that was bought and paid for by Hillary as the basis of that Russia collusion investigation into Trump. Now, early October, they had been warned in August of 2016 by Bruce Orr, don't trust it, it's a political document. They didn't listen. In October 2016, before the presidential election, in early October, they flew over the pond and they asked Christopher Steele, can you corroborate this? If you can, we will give you $1 million FBI dollars. He never got his money because he could never corroborate it. And guess what? Then by the end of that month in October of 2016, just before the 2016 presidential election, they used it as the bulk of information for the FISA application. At the top of a FISA application, it says verified. They couldn't support, they couldn't prove any of it. And since then, it has all been disproven. And by the way, thankfully, Hillary Clinton was so toxic, she still lost the election, even though the FBI put their thumb on the scale. As for the 33,000 emails that she deleted with BleachBit, and the devices that were destroyed by hammers, and the SIM cards that were removed from the devices, remember Jim Comey, no prosecutor would ever prosecute. But what he meant to say is no prosecutor will ever prosecute a Democrat. But if you're a Republican, it's a whole different ballgame. That's where we are in the state of America. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. That should concern everybody. Then you might recall December 2019, real evidence of public corruption handed over to the FBI. That's when the FBI, December 2019, got a hold of Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. Now, it was filled to the brim with details surrounding all these sketchy foreign business ventures, most of which he had no experience at all whatsoever for, including implicating and evidence connecting his own father, the big guy, to these deals, telling his own daughter, yeah, I'm not going to do what Pops is doing to me. I have to give Pops half my income. Wow. Did Joe get the money that you made in China, Ukraine, Russia? But instead of validating the contents of the laptop, the FBI had it for 11 months before the 2020 election. They warned big tech. They had weekly meetings with big tech that Russian disinformation about Hunter or Joe Biden would soon infect their platforms. Now, after the New York Post blew the scandal wide open, then we had the follow-up of 51 former Intel officials signing a public letter claiming that the laptop story had all the classic hallmarks of Russian disinformation. They were lying. They had no information to back that up at all, and none of what they said was true. And now all of us deserve answers. Take a look.
It is important to recognize corrupt individuals within federal agencies that I am talking about are not acting alone. They operate as vital partners of the left-wing political movement that includes most members of the mainstream media, big tech social media giants, global institutions and foundations, Democrat Party operatives, and elected officials. Perhaps the most egregious and effective act of sabotage against the truth was the public letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials that claimed the laptop had, quote, all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation, unquote. That letter itself was an information operation that interfered with and impacted the 2020 presidential election to a far greater extent than anything Russia ever could have hoped to achieve.
In other words, the 51 intel officials, that was their disinformation campaign. And yes, it did have an impact on a presidential election. In other words, your own federal government interfered in the 2020 election, and they tipped the scales to the candidate they preferred. That, of course, would be the weak, frail, cognitive mess known as Joey, your president. Now, sorry, can't help myself. Multiple outlets, including CBS, the Washington Post, New York Times, New York Post, all have confirmed the contents in Hunter Biden's laptop is real. And now we want to know what the big guy, what was his cut in on Hunter's pay for these, schemes that he's involved in? And what is the FBI and DOJ, what are they going to do about it, if anything? To this day, they are seriously, there are serious security concerns about the Biden family business. For example, here's Senator Chuck Grassley earlier today.
Whistleblower disclosures to my office make clear that the FBI has within its possession very significant, impactful, and voluminous evidence with respect to potential criminal conduct by Hunter and James Biden. These disclosures also allege that Joe Biden was aware of Hunter Biden's business arrangements and may have been involved in some of them. It's clear to me that the Justice Department and the FBI are suffering from a political infection that, if it's not defeated, will cause the American people no longer to trust these storied institutions.
Let me be very clear. I have long revered the FBI. I grew up, all four of my grandparents came from Ireland, and my grandfather's brother, two of his sons became FBI agents, and they were deity in my family, the most revered in my family. We revere it as an institution. And by the way, for all the good agents that keep our country safe and secure every day, thank you for your great job. But justice has got to be blind, and the political weaponization that we are now seeing is never acceptable. There should be no place for political bias at the FBI or at the Department of Justice, and it's way past time that these bad actors are held accountable, or it's going to get worse and worse until we're at the point of no return.